So welcome to this latest video on 162 Maths, and in this video we'll be going over the AQA GCSE Maths past paper of May 2023 on the higher tier paper 1. Now a little reminder before we get started on the paper that there is a question breakdown so you can see which question refers to which topic if in case there's one that you find a little bit tricky or probably need a little bit more work on, and also include a link to the 162 Maths contents page which gives you easy access to not only videos that go through each of the topics in greater detail but also topic tests, audits and other exam paper walkthroughs. So let's get started on question 1. So question 1 reads, work out 0.7 multiplied by 0.5. And for this, there's several ways in which you can do this. Either you can just multiply and know how to do it, but for this, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to recognise that I'm moving the decimal place one place in each of those numbers. So when I have 7 times 5, that gives me 35. I then need to return the decimal point 2 places to the left. So here, if I move it 1, 2, it gives me an answer of 0.35. Moving on to question 1b, it says 5, 6 divided by 3. So for this, what we need to do is just convert the 3 into a fraction, and then we're just dividing two fractions together. So the general rule is we flip the second fraction and turn it into a multiply. So I've got 5 times 1, which is 5, and 6 times 3, which is 18. Quick check to make sure it can be simplified, which this can't, so we leave the answer as 5 over 18. For the next one, we're then asked to work out 27 divided by 0.6. So again, if I write this as a fraction, and then if I multiply both the top and the bottom numbers by 10, I'm going to get 270 divided by 6. And then from this, all I then need to do is just do some division. So here I've got 6's into 2 go none, carry the 2, 2's into 27 go 4, carry the 3, and I get an answer of 45. Moving on to question 2, it says solve 2x is less than 26. All we need to do here is just get x by itself. So I'm going to take the 2 over the other side by dividing by 2, which leaves me with x is less than 13. For question 3, it says work out the value of 3 over 2 squared. Give your answer as a mixed number. So again, if I square the numerator, I get 9. Square the denominator, I get 4. And then we just need to convert this into a mixed number. So how many 4s go into 9? That's going to be 2. Remainder 1. And the original divisor was 4. Moving on to question 4, it says ABC, BD and BE are straight lines. Angle EBD is equal to 5 times the size of angle ABE, and angle DBC is equal to 3 times the angle of ABE. And the question is asking us to work out the angle of EBD. So for this, if we establish that ABE is x, then EBD is going to be equal to 5x, and DBC is going to be equal to 3x. So if I label these, this is going to be x, this is going to be 5x, and this is going to be 3x. Now what do we know about angles on a straight line? Well, they add up to 180. So here I've got 9x equals 180. So therefore x is going to equal 20 degrees. Now the question is asking me to work out the size of angle EBD, which is 5x. So here EBD equals 5x, which is going to be equal to 5 times 20, which is equal to 100 degrees. Moving on to question 5, it says 2 prime numbers are multiplied together. The answer is an even number between 50 and 60. And it says complete the calculation. Well, if I write down the prime numbers, I've got 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, 17, 19, 23, 29, 31, and I just need to stop there. Well, actually I don't even need the 31, but I'm just going to write it anywhere. Now in order for us to have an even number, I need to be multiplying one of the numbers must be 2. So there's one of them. So here it's just a case of going through 2 times any of the remaining numbers to see which gives me an answer between 50 and 60. So here the correct answer and the only answer is going to be 2 times 29, which equals 58. Now it's really important that you do have a number in each. It doesn't really matter which order you put 2 and 29, but it's really important that you do write 2, you do write 29, and you do write 58. Moving on to question 6, it says Andrew and Bruce share some money in the ratio of 5 to 6. Bruce gets £96, Andrew gives a quarter of his share to Carl, Bruce gives 2/3 of his share to Carl, and the question is asking how much money does Carl get. Well, first of all, let's have a look and work out the amounts that both Andrew and Bruce both get. So it says here that Andrew, well, actually we know that Bruce gets 96, so if I just get rid of this and start with Bruce, so Bruce equals £96, and we also know that that represents 6 parts. So then we can then work out what one part is, which is going to be 96 divided by 6. So again, working this out, that's going to give me 1 and 6, that equals £16. So therefore, Andrew, who equals 5 parts, is going to equal 5 times 16, which is £80. So Bruce is getting £96 and Andrew is getting £80. So from this, now we've got the total amounts of both Bruce and Andrew, we can then work out how much they each give to Carl. So Andrew to Carl is equal to, what I need to work out is a quarter of 80, which is £20. And I then need to work out what Bruce to Carl is going to be, which is 2/3 of 96. And again, 96 divided by 3, which gives me 32, and then 32 times 2, which is 64. So all that's left for me to then do is add these two amounts, giving me a total amount for Carl of £84. Moving on to question 7, it says 2a times 3 times 5 squared equals 600. Work out the value of a. You must show you're working out. So here, if I start off by writing 2a times 3 times 25 equals 600. And then from this, what you then want to do, now some might collect 3 and 25 together to make 75, but I personally believe that if we start getting rid of these numbers in any particular order by taking to the other side by dividing, you may find getting the answer a lot easier. So here, if I've got 2a times 25 equals 600 divided by 3, which is 200, then I take the 25 over to the other side to see how many 25s go into 200, and that's going to be 8. And then using the powers of 2, how many 2's do I need to multiply to give me 8? Or a is going to equal 3. And again, all I've done from this is first of all divide by 3 and then divide by 25. Moving on to question 8, it says expand and simplify fully. And we've got our expression here. So just doing a straight expansion, we're going to get 15x plus 20 minus 2x, and 2 minuses become a plus, so that's going to be plus 2. Then it's just a case of collating the x's, so 15x take away 2x is 13x, and 20 plus 2 is 22. Moving on to question 9, it says Erica tries to sketch the graph of y equals 1 over x, where x is not equal to 0. And the question is asking us to write 2 different criticisms about her sketch. Well, the 2 criticisms you can have, if I just have it on the screen, and it's of course reset, so let's just go back, and there we go. So one criticism is the fact that the values where x is less than 0, y is wrong. So let me just write that is incorrect. So when something along the lines, and it all depends on your wording, so when x is less than 0, y should be less than 0. So basically what the graph should look like is that. And also for the second reason is that x can't equal 0, and she's plotted x equals 0 as well. So here that the curve should not touch the y-axis. So in other words, x cannot equal 0, so the error is at this point here. So something along those lines would be absolutely fine for the 2 marks. Moving on to question 10, and let's just zoom in so we can see a little bit clearer on the screen. And let's quickly whiz through here. So it says here, Sunita is X years old. Beth is 1 year younger than Sunita. Joel is double the age of Sunita's age. The mean of their ages is 5. How old is Joel? Well, let's first of all start by writing an expression for each of their ages. So if we write Sunita equals X, then Beth, which is 1 year, who is 1 year younger, is going to be X minus 1. and Joel, who is twice the double age of Sunita. Well, if Sunita is X, then Joel is going to be 2X years old. Then to work out the mean, which is using this. Now to work out the average, what do you do? Well, you add up all the ages. So I've got X plus X minus 1 plus 2X. I divide by how many people there are, which is 3, and the answer is 5. So then if I take the 3 over to the other side and simplify the numerator, then what I end up with is I'm going to end up with 4x minus 1 equals 15. And then it's just a case of solving this equation. So here I've got 4x equals 16, so x equals 4. Now the question doesn't ask us to find out how old what x is. It actually asks us to see how old Joel is. So Joel equals 2x. And if x is 4, then it's going to be 2 times 4, which is 8 years old. Now moving on to question 11, it says the Venn diagram represents 100 items. I was going to say 1,000 there. It says write down the probability of A and B. Well, A and B is this middle bit here. And so because we're working out the probability, it's going to be 13 over the grand total, which is 100. And then a quick check, can we simplify that? No, we can't. So we're going to leave that as 13 over 100. It then says work out the probability of not A. Now not A, if I just remove the colouring of that, is basically everything that is outside the circle of A. So it's going to be this section here in pink. So that, if we add up the numbers, is 48 plus 11, which gives me 59. And so the probability is going to be 59 over the grand total, which is 100, which can't be simplified. Then it then says work out the probability of A or B. So again, if I just get rid of this colouring, A or B is going to be A, which is there, or B, which is this here, and it's the bit that's shaded. So here it's going to be 28 plus 13 plus 48. So here it's going to be 28 plus 13 plus 48, which comes up to a total of 89. So the answer is 89 over 100. Moving on to question 12, it says a times 10 to the power of n is a number in standard form. Complete the inequality for the value of a. Well, again, using your knowledge of standard form, that a needs to be a number that is between 1 and 10, inclusive of 1 and exclusive of 10. It then says 12b, b times 10 to the power of n is the number 7,200 rather, written in standard form. Work out b times 10 to the power of minus n. So if we first of all write 7,200 in standard form, so 7,200 is 7.2 times 10 to the power of 3. So that therefore means that n is 3 and b is 7.20. Now what the question is asking me is to work out b times 10 to the power of minus n. So if n equals 3, then what I'm going to end up with is 7.2 times 10 to the power of minus 3. The question asks me to write this in ordinary form, so it's going to be 0.0072. And just to double check, 1, 2, 3, and there we go. Moving on to question 13, it says here is a number machine. Show that when the input increases by 2, the output increases by 2a. So first of all, if we work out the original output. Now for this, following the machine using algebra, we end up with xa plus b, which is our original output. Now if we increase the output by 2, then what the input is going to be, the input by 2, it's going to be x plus 2. So from this, then we look at the new output, then that's going to be x plus 2 multiplied by a plus b. Now if I expand that out, I get ax plus 2a plus b, and then comparing this original output with this new output, what do I end up with? And as you can see, to get from here to here, I'm just adding 2a. Moving on to question 13b, it says f of x equals kx squared, where k is a constant. Kai says that f of 6 over f of 2 is equal to f of 3 because 6 over 2 equals 3. Is he correct? Well, what we want to do here is actually work out an expression for f of 6 and f of 2. So for here, f of 6 is where we substitute x equals 6 into the function, so I end up with 36k. Then doing the same for f of 2, let's just do that in different colour. So f of 2 is going to be 2 squared, which is 4k. So then working out what f of 6 over f of 2, using these values I get 36k over 4k, and then simplifying this expression, the k's cancel, 36 divided by 4 is 9. So is he correct? The answer is no. Moving on to question 14, it says here is a list of 11 whole numbers in numerical order. The lower quartile, the median, the upper quartile and the highest value are missing, and we've got some information here. Now looking at this, it says the median is 2 times the lower quartile, the upper quartile is 2.5 times the lower quartile, and the range is 2 times the interquartile range. So first of all, if we look at these numbers here, now the thing to remember is that all of these numbers are in numerical order as it states. So this number that goes here, now this is our lower quartile, this number is our median, this is our upper quartile, and this is the largest value. Now looking at this potential of the lower quartile first, that the possible numbers that this could be is 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 and 13. Now if we know that they're the possible numbers for that, we can then work out what the median is going to be using this information here. So if I double each of those green numbers, what do I get? Well, I'm going to get 16, 18, 20, 22, 24 and 26. Now because these numbers are in order, I know it definitely can't be 16, it definitely can't be 18, so therefore it can't be 8 and it can't be 9. I also know it can't be 26, so that discounts 13 as well. So the possible numbers for the lower quartile are either going to be 10, 11 and 12. And for the median it's going to be either 20, 22 or 24. Now if I move to the information about the upper quartile, so here or we can look at this information here, the interquartile range, which I can't work out because I don't know what the upper quartile is. So for the upper quartile it's going to be 2.5 times the lower quartile. So if I do 2.5 times 10, that's going to give me 25. 2.5 times 11 is going to give me 27.5, and 12 times 2.5 is going to give me an answer of 30. Now looking at the purple numbers, which ones are valid? Well, it can't be 25 because the number's got to be bigger than 28, so that discounts this, which also discounts 10, which also discounts 20. And we know that it definitely can't be 27.5 because it says that all 11 numbers are whole numbers. So it can't be this, can't be that, and it can't be that. So that therefore means that the lower quartile must be 12, the median must be 24, and the upper quartile therefore must be 30. Now using this information I can then work out what the range is going to be. So the IQR is going to be the upper quartile take away the lower, which is 30 take away 12, which gives me an answer of 18. And 2 times 18 is 36. So then to work out the largest number, it's going to be 36 plus 5, which gives me an answer of 41. So the numbers you want to then write are 30, 41, 24 and 12 in reverse order. And again, for 2 marks, I would say that's a lot of work for 2 marks, but again, those are the numbers that would give you the correct answer. Moving on to question 15, it says ABCD is a trapezium. All 4 sides are different lengths. AB is parallel to CD and the diagonals intersect at X. For each of the statements, tick the correct box. So if I just zoom out rather slowly, we can then see this diagram. So now with these particular questions, I would always recommend that you highlight each of these things that you are dealing with. So here we're going to draw the triangle AXB. So AXB is this here. Now, although they don't allow you to use colours in the exam, you can do separate sketches. You can ask for separate pieces of paper to help you decide these are, but it certainly does help if you've got an illustration to help you decide which is which rather than just looking at it in face value. So that's one triangle of AXB. The next triangle I then need to highlight is CXD. So it's looking at these two triangles here. So the question's asking, are those triangles similar? Well, again, because you've got two parallel lines, that this angle here is going to be the same as this angle here. This angle here is going to be the same as this angle here. And because they're alternate, and this angle is going to be the same as this angle. So because you've got AAA, that means that they are going to be similar. Then for the next one, it then says triangles AXD and BXC are congruent. So again, if I just get rid of that there, and this time highlight AXD, which is this triangle here, and BXC, which is this triangle here. And the question is asking, are those triangles congruent? Well, again, no, because all the lines are different lengths. We've got no sets of parallel lines, so that there is not going to be true. It then says, for the next statement, angle ADB is equal to angle BDC. So ADB is this triangle here, or this angle here, I should say. And BDC, which is this angle here. Are those two angles the same? No, because the fact that we've got all the lengths are different, so therefore it's not an isosceles trapezium. A and D are not, ADC is not a right angle triangle, so we can't even say that it's going to be, so it's not a parallelogram. If it was a parallelogram, we've got different things, but because this is a non-isosceles trapezium, angles ADB is not equal to BDC, so there is going to be a no. The next question then says area of triangle ABC, and if we just highlight that, ABC, which is this triangle here, and triangle ABD, which is this triangle here, are the same. Well, looking at this, both triangles have got the same perpendicular height, and both triangles share the same base, so therefore it is going to be true. Moving on to question 16, let's just zoom in so we can see a little bit clearer on the screen, and it says solve the simultaneous equation. So again, with this, you either want to make x's the same or the y's the same. I'm going to personally go for making x's the same, so I'm going to multiply the first equation by 3 and the second equation by 2. So what I'm going to end up with is 6x minus 15y equals 39, and I'm also going to end up with 6x plus 8y equals 16. So now that the x's are the same, they're both the same sign, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take away the two expressions, so the x's cancel, end up with minus 23y, and I also end up with equals 23, so therefore y is going to equal minus 1. So picking one of the equations, let's just go for the top one. So here I've got 2x minus 5y equals 13. You may have wanted to opt for plus 4y as y is negative, but again, just make sure that you're being careful with your negative numbers. So substituting y equals minus 1 into this expression, I'm going to get 2x plus 5 equals 13. And again, plus 5 because minus 5 times minus 1 is positive 5. Then from this, we then just need to solve the equation. So take the 5 over to the other side, so I end up with 8. And so then take the 2 over, and we end up with x equals 4. So here we end up with a value of x equals 4 and y equals minus 1. So moving on to question 17, it says that a solid hemisphere has a radius of x. The solid cylinder has a radius of 3x and a height of x. The surface area of a sphere is 4 pi r squared, where the radius is r. And the question is asking us to work out the ratio of the total surface area of the hemisphere to the total surface area of the cylinder. Give your answer in its simplest form. So first things first, we need to write down the formula for the surface area of the hemisphere. Now for this, we've got 4 pi r squared. Now because it's hemisphere, divide that by 2. And one thing I also need to add is the area of the circle, and that is pi r squared. Now for the hemisphere, I know that the radius is x. So substituting x into that, well, if I just simplify this first, substituting r equals x, I end up with 2 pi, and then it's going to be x squared plus pi x squared. Then I then need to work out the surface area of the cylinder. Now if you think about the surface area of a cylinder, it looks like two circles and a rectangle. Now we know that the area of the circle is pi r squared. And the length of the rectangle is 2 pi r, and it says that the height of the rectangle, the cylinder, is x. So then to work out the total surface area of the cylinder, that's going to be 2 lots of pi r squared plus 2 pi r times x. Then if I multiply this out, now we know that the radius of this is 3x. So substituting r equals 3x, I get 2 lots of pi, and it's going to be 9x plus 2 pi, and it's going to be 3 times 3x times x. Then simplifying all of this, what do I get? Well, I'm going to get 18x pi plus 2 times 3, which is 6, and then I'm going to get x, and that should be a square, sorry. Let's just stick that in. Where's that blue pen? There we go. And that should be square, and then 6x squared pi, which gives me a total of 24x squared pi. So now what I've got, and if I simplify, and one thing I forgot to do is simplify this, and that gives me 3 pi x squared. So what I've then got is my total surface areas. So looking at this statement here, the total surface area of the hemisphere is 3 pi x squared, and the total surface area of the cylinder is 24 pi x squared. Now looking and comparing, I can cancel the pi's, I can cancel the x squareds, and so all I'm left with is 3 to 24, which simplifies to 1 to 8, and there is my answer. Moving on to question 18, it says that the cube root of x is between 6 and 7. Circle the possible values of x. Well, for this, if I cube all the numbers, all the 3 things, then what I end up with is this. 6 cubed is 216, 7 cubed is 729, so I'm looking for a value of the 4 options that's between those 2 numbers, so the only possible answer it could be is 290. Moving on to question 19, it says work out how many 5-digit odd numbers can be made using the digits once each. So here, in order for us to end up with an odd number, it either needs to end in a 7 or 9. So that's going to be the fact that I'm going to be using. Now in terms of ending in 7, well, in terms of the first number, there are 4 numbers for me to choose from. Then once I've selected one, there are only 3 numbers to choose from. Then choosing from the remaining ones, I've got 2 and I've got 1. Multiplying that gives me 24 possible outcomes. Then in terms of ending in a 9, now again, the reason why I've only got 4 when there's only 5 digits is because I'm fixing that 7 as the last number. So then I've got from the first digit ending in a 9, I've got 4 options, then I've got 3 options, then I've got 2 options, then I've got 1, which is 24 again, and then all that's left for me to then do is add those 2 numbers up together, and I get a total answer of 48. Moving on to question 20, it says K, L and M are weights. Both are of the scales balance. Both of the scales balance exactly. How many M weights are needed to balance 1 L weight? Now what this is basically asking is to write L in terms of M, where L is the subject. So from this, if I convert this as an expression, I've got 3k equals 4l, and converting this into an equation, I've got k equals l plus 2m. Now what I need to do is, in this expression, I need to get rid of the k. So if I make k the subject, I get k equals 4/3 l. So then substituting this into this, I get 4/3 l equals l plus 2m. From this, what we can then do is, if I take the 3 over to the other side and multiply everything by 3, end up with 4l equals 3l plus 6m. Then if I take the 3L over to the other side, now remember we're not multiplying, I just take it away. So 4L minus 3L is just 1L, and so L equals 6M, and there is my final answer. The question is, how many M weights are needed to balance one L weight? And the answer is going to be 6. Moving on to question 21, it says express x squared minus 6x minus 15 in the form of this, and this is completing the square. Now again, you may have a different method of mine, but here I divide the coefficient of x by 2, which gives me 3, write the constant and take away whatever digit is inside the bracket squared, which is 9. And then it's just a case of simplifying the constants, so here, or the outside bit, which is x minus 3 squared minus 24. Moving on to question 22, it says a equals root 2 and b equals root 18. Match each expression to its value. So for this, what we just need to do, and if I just write down, let me just zoom out a little bit so we can see what a and b equal. Well, a squared's already been done, so a plus b is root 2 plus root 18. Now root 18 is root 9 times root 2, which is 3 root 2. So then I can rewrite this as root 2 plus 3 root 2, which equals 4 root 2. So I can then join this with this. Then with the next one, I've got AB. Well, AB is going to be root 2 times root 18, which is root 36, and square root of 36 is 6, so that is going to be there. And then b over a, well, that's going to be root 18 over root 2, which equals root 9, and root 9 is 3, so it's just a case of connecting those with those. Moving on to question 23, and let's just zoom in so we can see it a bit more clearer on the screen. So we want to, it says asking us to write 0.13 recurring as a fraction in its simplest form. So again, the method, we make it equal to x, and then what we want is we want to have the reoccurring pattern by itself. So here, if I multiply both sides by 10, end up with 1.3 recurring, multiply it by again by 10, and I get 13.3 recurring, and then using these two expressions, I get 100x equals 13.3 recurring, 10x equals 1.3 recurring. Take the two things away, end up with 90x. The root 3, the recurring 3's cancel, so that's just equals 12. And I get x equals 12 over 90, and then it's just a case of simplifying. So I can divide both numbers by 3, which I've got 4 over 30, which simplifies again to give me 2 over 15, and there is my final answer. Moving on to question 24, it says points P, Q and R, where R is the coordinate of 8, 22, form a triangle. PQ is a horizontal line with P on the y-axis. The angle PQR or PRQ is a right angle, and the gradient of PR is 2. Work out the coordinates of Q, and it's worth 5 marks. There's going to be quite a lot of work for this. So first of all, the fact that we know that R equals 8 is at 8, 22, so it means that this point here is 22 and this point here is 8. Now this question all just basically involves equations of a straight line. So here we know that the gradient of PR, which is this line here, has a gradient of 2. So first thing we want to do is find the equation of PR. Now we know that M equals 2, and we know that we've got a coordinate which is 8, 22 that it passes through. Now for this, you can either use y equals mx plus c, or you can use y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. It's entirely up to you. I'm going to go for y minus y1 in terms of this. So using y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. Substituting those numbers in, I get y minus 22 equals 2x minus 8. Expanding the brackets out, I get 2x minus 16. Taking the 22 over across, I get 2x plus, and it's going to give me 6. So this orange line here has a line of y equals 2x plus 6. Now using this, what I can then work out is what P is. So at P, y x equals 0. So at this, if I substitute 0 into the equation, that then gives me y equals 2x plus 6, so it's going to equal 6. So that gives me a coordinate of 0, 6. And so P is at this point here. Now, this line here is a horizontal line as it states, and that line there is going to be y equals 6. So from this, what I can then know is that Q is going to have a y ordinate of 6. So if I just go back and I start by writing 6 there. Now what I then need to do is I then need to work out the equation of QR. Now the gradient is perpendicular, hence why they told you it's a right angle. So if the gradient of this orange line is 2, then the gradient is going to be perpendicular, which is going to have a gradient of -1/2. Now again, I've got a coordinate that lies on the line QR, which is 8, 22. So using this as my x1, 22 as my y1, I'm then going to work out the equation of QR. So the equation of QR is going to be y minus 22 equals -1/2 x minus 8. And again, expanding the brackets out, I get y minus 22 equals -1/2 x. Oh, let's just write that properly. -1/2 x plus, and it's going to give me 4. And then taking the 22 over to the side, I end up with y equals 1/2 x plus 26. Now at Q, we know that y equals 6. So if I substitute y equals 6 into the equation of QR, what I then get is 6 equals -1/2 x plus 26. Take the 26 over to the side, so I end up with 6 take away 26, which is -20, and that equals 1/2 x. Take the half over to the side, I end up with positive 40, so x equals 40. So the coordinate of Q is going to be 46. Moving on to question 25, it says show that 4 sine 30 minus sine tan 45 over 2 cos 30 can be written as tan x, where x is an acute angle. Now for this is all about exact values of trig. So first things first, what you want to do is start by writing down the exact values of the trig functions that we have. So here we've got tan 45 and cos 30. Now again, there's different variations you can use when you've rationalized the denominator or not, but I'm going to go for the more common ones. So sine 30 is 1/2, tan 45 is 1, and cos 30 is √3/2. Now substituting each of these three values into the fraction that we've been given, so I've got 4 lots of sine 30, so that's 4 lots of 1/2, minus tan 45, which is 1, all divided by 2 times √3/2. Now simplifying this, what do we end up with? Well, 4 times 1/2 is 2, minus 1, and 2 cancel out, so I'm just left with √3. And what this then becomes is 1/√3. Now using your exact values of tan, what must x be for this to be true? Well, therefore x must equal 30. Then moving on to question 26, it says that a circle with centre O has a circumference of 20 pi. Q is a point on the circle and OPQR is a square. And it says the perimeter of the square to the circumference of the circle is equal to √a to pi, where a is an integer. And the question is asking us to work out the value of a. Well, the first things first, let's have a look at the circumference of a circle. Well, the circumference of a circle is 2 pi r. So 2 pi r equals 20 pi. Now from this, what we can then do is a bit of cancelling. So we can cancel the pi's. So what we know is that 2r equals 20. So therefore the radius must equal 10. So this dotted line must equal 10. Now what we want to work out is we want to know what the perimeter of the square is. Now if I take that triangle out, now we know that the sides of a square are the same, and we know that this length here is 10. So using Pythagoras, what I've got is I've got x squared plus x squared equals 10 squared. So 2x squared equals 100. So x squared equals 50. And so x equals the square root of 50. Now I can simplify the square root of 50 knowing surds. So x can be written as 25 times root 2, which equals 5 root 2. So x equals 5 root 2. Now that's not really important at this moment in time, but again, depending on which you prefer to use, either x equals root 50 or x equals 5 root 2 is entirely up to you. So from this, what I can then work out is that the perimeter of the square is going to equal either 4 lots of root 50 or 4 times 5 root 2, which is 20 root 2. So again, either of those will be absolutely fine for the perimeter of the square. Now going back to the original ratio, it says the perimeter of the square, which is 20 root 2, to the circumference of the circle, which I'm given in the question, which is 20 pi. So there, that is true. And all that's left for me to then do is simplify this. Now we've got 20s on both sides, so we cancel that down. So I've got root 2 equals pi. So then comparing it to this, what does a equal? A equals 2. Then moving on to our last question, it says that a journey has 2 stages. Show that the average speed of the whole journey in kilometers per hour is 2a over a plus b. Now the average speed is equal to the total distance divided by the total time. Now working these bits individually, so I've got the total distance, which is basically 30 plus 30, which is 60, and the total time, which is going to be this plus this, which is 30 over a plus 30 over b. Now with this question, what we need to do is we need to simplify this expression here. Now what we want is a common denominator. So my common denominator here is going to be AB. So multiplying the first fraction by b, that gives me 30b, and multiplying the second fraction by a gives me 30a. And then combining the two gives me 30a plus 30b all over AB. And that there is my total time. Now going back to this formula here and substituting those two values in, what I get is my average speed is equal to 60 divided by 30a plus 30b all divided by AB. Now what we then need to do is make sense of this. Now what this therefore equals, it equals 60 divided by 30a plus 30b all divided by AB. Now when we've got fractions, what do we do when we're dividing? Well, we flip the second fraction and turn it to a multiply. So what this then becomes is 60ab over 30a plus 30b. And then combining those two, we get 60ab all over 30a plus 30b. And then if we divide everything by 30, that becomes a 1, that becomes a 1, that becomes a 2, leaving us with 2ab over a plus b, which is what they wanted us to show. And there we go.